Hi guys, this is lesson 7 in unit 8. We're going to talk about cube functions. Let's take a look at this function. We have f of x equals x minus 3 times x plus 4 times x minus 1. And I need to write or to change the factored form of this polynomial into the standard form. So we learned in the past that we can take the first two binomials and multiply them by each other. So I'm going to take x minus 3 times x plus 4, and I'm going to work with that first. So we use double distribution to be able to multiply binomials. So I'm going to distribute x into x and 4. So x times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. So I'm going to have 4x, x squared plus 4x, and then I'm going to multiply negative 3 times x, that's negative 3x, and negative 3 times 4, that's negative 12. Now looking at this polynomial, I know I have like terms that I can put together. So I'm going to put like terms together, and I'm going to end up with x squared. 4 minus 1 is 1. That means I'm going to end up with plus x. And then I have negative 12. So I end up with a trinomial, and I can multiply that trinomial with the last binomial to be able to change the polynomial into the standard form. And to be able to multiply the trinomial with the binomial, I need to triple distribute. That means I'm going to multiply x squared by x, which is x to the third, x squared by negative 1, which is negative x squared. I'm going to have to multiply, so we multiply these two together, and then we're going to have to multiply x by x, which is x squared, so plus x squared, and x times negative 1, which is negative x. After that, we will have to multiply negative 12 by x, which is negative 12x, and negative 12 by negative 1, which is 12. So looking at this expression now, I can see that I have few like terms. So I have negative x squared and x squared. These two are like terms, negative 1 plus 1. These two cancel each other. So I'm going to end up with x to the third at the beginning. Then we have negative x and negative 12x are like terms. And when we put these two together, we end up with negative 13x. And the last term is just 12. So the standard form for this polynomial is f of x equals x to the third minus 13x plus 12. Now, since the highest power in this polynomial is 3, that means that we have a cube function. This is a cube function in the standard form, and we were able to write the standard from the factored form. Now, looking at the number of factors here, we have 3 factors with x. That means that when we have a quadratics, we end up with factors or x factors, 2 x factors. And if we have a cube function, we end up with 3 x factors. Let's sketch this function. So to be able to sketch this function, I'm going to graph this function in the calculator. So I'm going to put y equals my function is x minus 3 times x plus 4 times x minus 1. And I'm going to look at the graph. So looking at the graph, I don't see the complete cube function, so I want to see the whole graph, which means I'm going to have to change the window. So I need to see more of the top of the screen, so I'm going to go to window and I'm going to change the y max from 10 to, let's do 30 and see if that would work. So I'm going to go to y max and change the y max to 30. Now I see the whole graph here. So when I'm sketching, I need to make sure that I identify that the x-intercepts are -4, 1, and 3, and that the y-intercept looks from here is 12. So let me look at the table and find out if these values are correct. So I'm looking at the table and I can see that one of the zeros is -4. So -4, 0 is very important. 0, 12 is the y-intercept. 1, 0 is another x-intercept, and 3, 0 is the third x-intercept. So this is what I need to identify in my sketch. I need to identify the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. So now I'm going to sketch. I'm going to make my axis here. I have the y-axis, the x-axis. I'm going to identify the window. That's at 10, -10. The y max was 30, and the y min was -10. And then my intercepts were -4, so that's one of the intercepts, 1 and 3. 1, -4. And the y-intercept was 12. So to sketch, all I need to do is to graph my cube function and make sure that my graph goes through the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. And this is how you sketch a cube function. The most important features of this sketch is first the window, the x-intercepts, and the y-intercept. If we look at the x-intercepts, we'll find out that these values are the opposite values of the numbers in the factors, and that the 12 is multiplying -3 times 4 times -1. -3 times 4 times -1 is 12, and the x-intercepts are the opposites, which is 3, -4, and 1. We talked about the zero product property before when we talked about the quadratic, and we said we can identify the zeros or the x-intercepts by factoring the quadratic and using the zero product property to find those zeros. The same thing can happen with the cube function. When you factor the cube function, you'll end up with factors. Most likely you're going to end up with 3 factors. So using the zero product property can help us get these zeros or the solutions for the cube function by setting each factor equal to 0. So when we have 3 minus x minus 3 equals 0, that means I can add 3 to both sides and I can end up with x equals 3. When I have x plus 4 equal to 0, that means I can take away 4 from both sides and I can end up with x equals negative 4. And when I have x minus 1 equal to 0, that means I can add 1 to both sides and I'm going to end up with 1 as the final 0 for this cube rule. So the solutions for this cube rule are x equals 3, x equals negative 4, and x equals 1, which are identified on the sketch of the cube function.